wow, look at these titles. They're so cool and clever. It really inspires me to be cool and clever. So, I'm gonna bitch about them. That's clever. Ugh. Well, listen, all right. Video game titles, you can't avoid them. I mean, you could, but there's only so many video games you can keep calling Hey You there until it gets kind of confusing. And the thing is, video games are some of the most creative pieces of entertainment and art you could possibly experience. So, of course, the artists behind said pieces of entertainment and art want to get a little quirky sometimes. I mean, it's either that or marketing decisions. I mean, who the hell knows what they were thinking behind these? This was a bit of a trend, all right? Titling something in a long-standing series 1. You know, here we have Mortal Kombat 1, which is actually Mortal Kombat 12. And the reasoning for this title is the entire, like, lore and plot of this game is like a continuity reset. So it is kind of just like, hey, this is Mortal Kombat just started over pretty much in terms of its storyline and all of that. And then Battlefield 1, it's World War I. All right, not nearly as interesting, but you know for a fact the people who titled this thought they were so fucking cool. Makes me wonder what the people who named the Xbox One must feel like. At this point in time, probably shame. The reason behind the Xbox One name was it was meant to be this all-in-one entertainment device. You know, they said, like, this is everything you could possibly need all in one game console, which was ironic considering, like, one of the very first things we really learned about the Xbox One was the fact that it was not backwards compatible with original Xbox or Xbox 360 games. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if it would be completely fair to call this a trend like I did because Xbox One was in 2013. Battlefield 1 was 3 years later in 2016. Then Mortal Kombat 1 is like, what, 2023? So yeah, a 10-year-long trend spanning 3 different products. Okay. Well, it's more so that I've seen it happen a couple of times, and I don't really like it each time. I think Mortal Kombat 1 is definitely, like, the least egregious, I think, because the Mortal Kombat games, in terms of numbering, has been completely all screwed up. I mean, this series has been completely screwed up in terms of numbering and naming conventions and all of that. It's honestly kind of a joke. The first game is Mortal Kombat, and then you have, you know, Mortal Kombat 2, 3, 4, and then after that, you have just a bunch of games just subtitled what the hell ever. Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe is technically Mortal Kombat 8, and then they were like, all right, we got to reboot Mortal Kombat. So then you have Mortal Kombat 9, but that's not called Mortal Kombat 9. In retrospect, it's called Mortal Kombat 9, but, you know, the actual game's name is just Mortal Kombat. And then you have Mortal Kombat 10, which is a Roman numeral, similar to Mortal Kombat 2, which is a Roman numeral. But no, Mortal Kombat 10 is not actually called Mortal Kombat 10. It is actually officially pronounced Mortal Kombat X, because they then later had a re-release of Mortal Kombat 10 with all the DLC and stuff included, and it's called Mortal Kombat XL. So even though Mortal Kombat 2 is using Roman numerals, and then Mortal Kombat X is supposed to obviously be like, oh, it's like the Roman numeral for 10. No, it's not called Mortal Kombat 10, even though it is in fact Mortal Kombat 10. But then for the next game, Mortal Kombat 11, yeah, they just straight up were like, yeah, fuck it, it's called Mortal Kombat 11. Which is interesting because you could kind of see the 1-1 there as 2 eyes, so it kind of looks exactly like Mortal Kombat 2, because Mortal Kombat 2 was in Roman numerals. And then instead of calling this Mortal Kombat 12, they go with Mortal Kombat 1. Which pretty much means we have the original Mortal Kombat 1, and then another game called just Mortal Kombat in like 2011, and then Mortal Kombat 1. Like I said, I do feel like Mortal Kombat is just kind of aware of the fact that all of these titles are all over the place. They're kind of having fun with it. Battlefield 1, that feels a little like they're trying to be kind of cool, a little like, oh wow, this is Battlefield 1. Same can be said for the Xbox One, which is interesting that the Xbox One is called what it is, considering that they named the second Xbox Xbox 360 because they didn't want to call it Xbox 2 because, oh wow, that name is less than a PlayStation 3, so well, we need something more than a 3. I guess they just threw that shit out the window for the Xbox One. They went in the exact opposite direction. What I don't really like about this is that it kind of like forces you to call the first release by something else. You know, now the first Mortal Kombat, you pretty much always have to call it, oh, the original Mortal Kombat or the first Mortal Kombat. You can't call that shit Mortal Kombat 1 anymore. The original Xbox, yeah, you gotta call it the original Xbox. You can't call it the Xbox One anymore. To be fair, Battlefield, there was never like a game just called Battlefield. The first game was just Battlefield 1942. But what's really confusing to me about Battlefield 1 is the fact that it's just kind of skipped in the overall series, like, numbering schemes. Now, keep in mind, I really haven't played a ton of the Battlefield games outside of, like, the original Bad Company. But you had Battlefield 4 in 2013, then Battlefield 1, and then you had a follow-up to Battlefield 1 being Battlefield 5. And the thing is, Battlefield 5 was based on World War II, with this one being based on World War I, but this one is just not considered in the actual, like, numbering scheme of the franchise. To be fair, I mean, like, yeah, you go from Battlefield 4 to 1, and then what? After that, you're going to 6? I don't know. Either way, I've never been a huge fan of the one subtitling, just to be kind of cute. But how about more titles that aren't confusing, but still kind of confuse me? All right, boom. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. What? Why is it called this? It's the whole ass trilogy, but in my opinion, this title kind of implies it's just the first game remastered or remade. And to be fair, the first game had, like, the biggest touch-ups in this collection. But I just don't really think this title really conveys the fact that this is Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 remastered on modern platforms. I remember when this collection got announced and before it got released, I was genuinely kind of confused as to, like, okay, like, is this actually a collection of the 3 games? Because the title doesn't sound like that at all. But you know the good thing about Mass Effect Legendary Edition, it implies that it's less than what it actually is, which is, you know, 3 games. This right here implies it's a hell of a lot more than what it is. Gears of War Reloaded. Now, of course, I wanted to pick this up because, like, oh, wow, Gears of War on PS5? That's incredible. Of course, I saw the announcement. I knew this was just going to be Gears of War 1 kind of remastered, even though we already got a remaster of Gears of War 1 back in, like, 2015 with Gears of War Ultimate Edition. But listen, this is just my opinion. To me, the name Gears of War Reloaded, especially after we already got Gears of War Ultimate Edition, this kind of implies that this is more of like a from the ground up remake of Gears of War 1. But no! This is basically the same fucking game, Gears of War Ultimate Edition. It just got updated for like 4K, 60 frames per second. You know, it's a good update. I'm happy that it's here. But this is more so like it's Gears of War Ultimate Edition remastered. And I think they made the title the way it is because it obviously kind of like gets more eyes on it because it sounds like a new thing. It sounds like a different thing. When in reality, this is fundamentally like a next-gen update to Gears of War Ultimate Edition. On PS5, sure, I guess, because, like, well, this is the first time Gears of War is on PS5. But when you're on, like, Xbox Game Pass and you're scrolling through and you see, like, so many versions of just Gears of War 1 there. You have the original Xbox 360 version of Gears of War, that's there. And then you have Gears of War Ultimate Edition, the remaster for the Xbox One. And now you have Gears of War Reloaded, which is fundamentally just Gears of War Ultimate Edition again, but in 4K at 60 frames per second. Which at that point, at least on the Xbox, I'm kind of just like, this could have just been like an update to Ultimate Edition, or like just a free update or a paid update. I don't know. I just think this title implies this game is a whole lot more than what it is. When you pop this in, do not expect anything more than a remaster of an early Xbox 360 game. It's a good Xbox 360 game. Gears of War still is like a good game, but it does show its age in many ways. I think like Gears of War kind of found like a lot of its footing with Gears of War 2. But them just putting out the first game, I'm just kind of like, I feel like they should have done the original trilogy on 360, kind of remastered or remade from the ground up. You know, and just put some more time into it, because I do kind of feel like if you're a PlayStation gamer getting into the series for the first time, this version of Gears of War, it's the definitive version. I feel like you kind of need to have the trilogy there if you want as many people as possible to actually, like, really, like, oh, like, they're like, oh my god, like, I really like Gears of War. I feel like for PlayStation gamers, this is kind of like Uncharted 1. Like, Uncharted 1 is good and all that, but it's also like, if you just play that by itself, it's kind of like, okay, what's the big deal? It's like you have the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection for that, because you kind of need the full trilogy there. With all that said, f this title. However, I will give Gears of War Reloaded this. I don't go out of breath after I say the whole goddamn title. Holy shit. Nintendo Switch 2 editions of games. Specifically, a lot of the Nintendo Switch 2 editions Nintendo puts out. These things are ridiculous. I mean, for more reasons than one. We're primarily going to focus on the titles here. But I mean, like, what the they're with my box arts. You gotta hand original Nintendo Switch games this. They really let the entire artwork shine with how minimal the branding and stuff are over here. And they just went the exact opposite direction with the Switch 2. I mean, not only do we have like the entire top here, just like absolutely just nothing but this void of red, but then we also have all of these damn disclaimers at the bottom. Includes the Nintendo Switch game and the Nintendo Switch 2 edition upgrade pack. Upgrade pack also available separately. For details, visit well, that's not a URL I can visit. Nintendo, that's Spanish. I wonder how many people have actually scanned this damn QR code. All that text, and it's still kind of confusing what these games are. The fact that you can in fact play a Nintendo Switch 2 edition Nintendo Switch 2 game on an original Nintendo Switch, and it'll play the Nintendo Switch 1 edition of the game, I feel like that should be more apparent than what it is. Back when these versions of games were revealed, there was a lot of misinformation going around that, oh, a Switch 2 edition just means it's the Nintendo Switch 1 cartridge with a download code for the Switch 2 edition, which, you know, I thought made a ton of sense. I'm definitely really thankful that, no, everything's just on the cartridge, and it also works on the Switch 1. I don't know how many people are going to be playing Switch 2 editions on their Switch 1, but I think it's really damn cool that you can do that. But it would have made a ton of sense for this giant company to just say, nah, just put the Switch 1 cartridge in here and throw a download code in there. That makes sense for a company to do that. It also makes sense for a company to not have absolutely dog communication skills. But hey, this is Nintendo we're talking about here, and they feel the need to just like just give your mouth just a fucking avalanche. Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus Jamboree TV. Okay, so here's how Nintendo likes to do these things. A Nintendo Switch 2 edition is an enhanced Nintendo Switch 1 game exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, some of these editions have substantial new content. That's where the plus comes in. And then they tell you what the title of this content is. And here's my problem with this whole plus nonsense. This added DLC isn't available separately. I feel like this whole title would have made sense if, let's say, you could buy the Nintendo Switch 2 edition upgrade for Kirby and the Forgotten Land for like $10 or so, okay? That upgrade would give you 4K, 60 frames per second, that's all good. And then maybe for an additional $10, you can also get this brand new DLC, Star-Crossed World. And then for a grand total of $20, you can get everything all in one, which is, you know, how much more expensive this version of the game is. You know, these games are both $80 compared to the Nintendo Switch 1 editions, which are just $60. But you can buy any of this stuff separately. The Nintendo Switch 2 edition upgrade for Mario Party Jamboree is just a flat $20. Same goes for the Switch 2 edition upgrade with Star-Crossed World for Kirby, $20. So at that point, why the hell are we just clogging this fucking title's name with this plus Jamboree TV, plus Star-Crossed World? Just call it the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of these games. And I'm also gonna be honest, this DLC, I don't think it's substantial enough to really flaunt it here as if like, oh man, this is the Nintendo Switch 2 edition and it has Jamboree TV. Firstly, Super Mario Party Jamboree does not have a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. When you boot up this game, it tells you, do you want to play Mario Party Jamboree? Okay, great. It's the exact same as it is on Nintendo Switch. And then they go, hey, do you want to play Jamboree TV? Go for it, Bubba. It's its own separate little side mode. Starcross World is at least like more substantial, like there's more to it. But at the same time, I don't think it's that big of an addition. Like it's an addition and I like it for sure. But it's also kind of just like, I don't know, man. You could have just called these the Nintendo Switch 2 edition. You don't need these plus parts of the title. But even then, for a lot of games that just get like these Nintendo Switch 2 editions, I just kind of question, like, do you really need to put this in the title, create a brand new logo for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition? It just feels like Nintendo is very picky about specifying things. I mean, it's a joke online. You see how they would advertise the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. In all of the Nintendo Directs, the announcer would say, Wave 2 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe game for Nintendo Switch. Like, I do think Nintendo is very, very picky about making sure everything is as specified as possible with their new releases. I think especially considering, oh, now they're doing movies. You know, there's a reason why the Super Mario Brothers movie is called the Super Mario Brothers movie. Most other video game adaptations are just called the video game's name. I mean, you look at the Sonic movies, it's just Sonic the Hedgehog. But I think Nintendo is very picky. They're like, no, this is the Super Mario Brothers movie. We don't want you to get it confused with the games or anything. And they're doing a very similar thing with these Switch 2 editions. Hell, even with trailers, like they call a Metroid Prime 4 trailer, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Nintendo Switch 2 edition trailer. I'm just like, why specify that? Just call it the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond trailer. It doesn't even make any sense because they're advertising in the trailer that this is not only a Nintendo Switch 2 game, but a Nintendo Switch 1 game as well. So, like, why are you titling it Nintendo Switch 2 edition? I don't understand. Yes, that's definitely the footage they're showing in the trailer, but just call it the goddamn game name. You don't need to specify Nintendo Switch 2 edition, especially considering I know it's on the goddamn Switch 2 because it's a Nintendo Switch 2 box. Like, I understand using this title maybe on like the eShop when you're advertising, oh, the upgrade pack for Pokemon Legends ZA or something. But on the actual box and like in all of the advertising and all of that stuff, I just find it to be a little too much. Like I said, on Switch 2 boxes, a lot of space is already just taken up by a bunch of crap. And now not only that, but we have like this bigger stupid logo that has to specify Nintendo Switch 2 edition taking up even more space. So, yeah, I'm kind of over all of the super long titles for Switch 2 editions of games. So, let me talk about something a little simpler. Does anybody else just find this annoying to say? Demon's Souls. Can we just get rid of the apostrophe S here? Can we just call it Demon Souls? I mean, half the time when I actually say the name, I can just say Demon Souls, and a good chunk of people will probably hear the correct title. Demon Souls. There, I tried to say the actual title there, and, you know, it kind of just sounded the exact same. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. That's it. I just find this one to be a little hard to actually say. Yeah, let's move on to some other garbage. Oh my god, the Monkey Ball game, specifically a lot of the modern ones, have a huge problem with the titles, and I honestly think it makes it a lot harder for people to actually like know a new Monkey Ball game is actually out, because Monkey Ball Banana Rumble launched in 2024 as a Nintendo Switch exclusive, and it's actually a good Monkey Ball game. This is probably one of the best Monkey Ball games, next to 1 and 2 on the original GameCube. I'd say this is up there. This gets things as close as possible to like the original glory days of Monkey Ball, but they had to call it this name, which sounds so similar to like all the other ones they've done. All right, so first up, we had Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz on the original Wii. Fine title here. This was a launch title for the Wii, and, you know, this was kind of like the initial downfall of Monkey Ball. I think Banana Blitz is still like a good enough game to be like, oh, if you'd pick it up, like, it wouldn't be like, wow, this is fucking dog shit. It's just a very, like, average mediocre game overall. But this was kind of the start of a new direction that the franchise took from there on out, specifically when it came to like the level designs and the control methods and all of that crap. But regardless, you can hate this game all you want, but you gotta admit the title is okay. But then that brings us over to the PlayStation Vita a good couple of years later with Super Monkey Ball Banana Splits. Personally speaking, I think this name is way too close to Banana Blitz, but I will at least concede, like, sure. I mean, it makes sense. A banana split. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like this title. It is a little confusing. And this is probably like one of the most forgotten Monkey Ball games just because, you know, it was on the Vita. Like, I never heard anybody talking about this game when it came out. It wasn't a launch title for the Vita. At the very least, like, I remember Super Monkey Ball 3D on the 3DS. That I remember more people talking about. And that was primarily because, oh, I mean, you know, I think Monkey Ball and the Nintendo audience kind of clashed together a lot more than, you know, the Monkey Ball and the Vita audience. But even then, you know, at least Monkey Ball 3D was a launch title for the 3DS, so it was one of the few games that I think was worth kind of talking about, even though that game itself isn't very good. Banana Splits also isn't very good. The control in this game is abhorrent. You do not have 360-degree movement. You can only go in one of 4 directions. I don't understand why. That is god-awful. But the worst sin of Banana Splits is its name, because it's way too close to Banana Blitz. So, how do we rectify that? Re-release fucking Banana Blitz again. Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD was kind of this franchise trial return to form. This released back in 2019 after a pretty long absence of new Monkey Ball content. And they put this out, a remaster of the original Wii game. And I'm sure they did that just because the Wii game was actually like a very top seller in the franchise. So maybe Sega looked at it initially and was like, oh, actually, Banana Blitz is the most popular one, so we got to do that one, even though it, you know, like critically isn't the most popular one. But also, I think Banana Blitz on the Wii is a much easier, just like, hey, remaster that, kind of just take the original game and just kind of like spruce things up a bit. The first 2 games on GameCube would require more of a full-blown remake compared to this one, which is more of just a remaster, which is what they actually ended up getting here. But yeah, I mean, either way, okay, so we're 3 Monkey Ball games in with the word banana in the title. To be fair, this one makes sense to have banana in the title. These ones don't have barely, like, any excuses. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. It remakes pretty much all the stages from Monkey Ball 1, 2, and Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. And you can maybe look at the title as sort of an homage to Sonic Mania, which is kind of like a celebration of the classic Sonic games. So this is a celebration of the classic Monkey Ball games. So, you know, you put Mania in the title there. Banana has no place in this title. In my opinion, I think they should just call it Super Monkey Ball Mania. Because, I mean, like, why not? It makes sense. It rolls off the tongue. Just do that. But I think these goddamn titles really just hit a nerve with me when we got this brand new game, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Why the is banana in all of these titles? It's just because they're monkeys and monkeys like bananas. Again, I would have just called this Super Monkey Ball Mania, Super Monkey Ball Rumble. And I think it overall just gets kind of confusing because all of these games have very similar sounding titles, and they also have just kind of very similar vibes. At the very least, like, okay, this one, they at least redesigned the characters, so it's just like, okay, you can kind of at least be like, oh, well, it looks a bit different. These ones, I mean, like, holy shit, man, it looks very similar. So yeah, I have no idea how we got to the point where the Monkey Ball games have confusing titles, but here we are. And buddy, I don't think I'm saying anything like nobody's really ever said before here. All of these Square Enix HD 2D games, who the fuck is titling these things? A very strange trend with these games, at least at the start, was how Octopath Traveler was originally announced as Project Octopath Traveler. Triangle Strategy was originally announced as Project Triangle Strategy. And then eventually they announced their final titles, which was exactly what you thought they would fucking be. It's literally, they were just like, well, we can't come up with anything else here other than just what the initial working title was. I also have Live Alive here, which is another HD 2D game, but you know, it's a remake of a Super Famicom game. So, I mean, this title is nothing new. And I really love Live Alive, but my initial thought when I saw the title and everything is I thought the way you pronounce it was Live Alive, which, you know, is still a weird title, but I think it, like, at least makes some sense where, like, okay, like, you know, you have so many different scenarios in this game, and you get to live a life. You get to see, like, what these characters' lives are. No, it's called, you have to pronounce it Live Alive. Okay. And this game isn't an HD 2D game, but it at least follows like the same like logo look of these games with like kind of like this Times New Roman ass looking font and like the underline and stuff. Various Day Life. What the hell kind of a title is that? But hey, at least they kind of got things right with the Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 remakes that they did in HD 2D. These titles are very matter of fact. It's just Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. It's nothing fancy, and you almost kind of wish that they would have, you know, maybe called it something a little more, like, just interesting. But it's just like, you know what? I kind of respect this. It is what it is. There's not much to really get confused about here. So, you know, you may think, oh, HD 2D games are kind of getting their shit figured out when it comes to their title. And then you see the fucking title, The Adventures of Elliot. Oh, god damn it. All right, this is a little bit of a speed round. Dragon Quest 11S. There's a lot of shit in this title, and I don't think a lot of it is very necessary, especially considering the fact that this version of the game, you know, it launched as a Nintendo Switch exclusive version of the game, but it eventually made it to other platforms like the PS4, the Xbox One, all of that. But initially, I think the S was meant to be like, oh, it's Switch for the Switch, you know, that kind of thing. But they still feel the need to put Definitive Edition here, and I'm just like, buddy, what the f? Also, what is the S doing right there on the logo? You can already see it in the background there, like the S is supposed to be right there because it's Dragon Quest 11S. But on the logo, it's just kind of like right here off center, and it almost makes it seem like it's supposed to be Dragon Quest 11 Echoes of an Elusive Age S Definitive Edition. I'm like, if I were them, I would have put like maybe like an S like behind, like next to the 11 or something. I don't know. But it's also like, okay, either pick the S or pick Definitive Edition. Why do we have both? Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. Buddy, the original Nintendo World Championships was for the NES. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. I mean, to be fair, the U in the title is it's just a part of the goddamn title. There's not much you can really do about it. It's almost like, you know, like maybe, oh, if they brought over Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS to the Nintendo Switch, and they called it Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS for Nintendo Switch. All right, buddy, that's a bit much. At the very least, this isn't called New Super Mario Bros. For Wii U Deluxe. I mean, like, you know, to normal consumers, they just named this Super Mario Bros. U for some godforsaken reason. And to be fair, I don't really know what the hell else you call this, because it's just like, you can't really just remove the U and call this New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. Because, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, at least here, they're not false advertising anything. They're just telling you how it is. But it's just a little goofy to have a Wii U name like this still on Nintendo Switch. But hey, that brings us to Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Wii U. This is a pretty easy one to just dog on because the Smash Bros. Titles outside of these entries pretty damn good. I mean, you have Smash Bros. Melee, Brawl, and then Ultimate. Those are great. But this entry has a major problem. I mean, it's spread across 2 different games. And while these games are both different, they're also the same. They have the exact same gameplay, but they have different stages and modes, and just certain things about them are different. So let's be a little hypothetical here. Let's imagine these games had like a certain subtitle or something, and they were both called the same thing. Let's just call these like Smash Brothers Legacy or something like that. So this one's called Smash Brothers Legacy, this one's called Smash Brothers Legacy. Well, that doesn't make sense because they aren't 100% the same. So let's give them different titles. Let's call this one Smash Brothers Legacy and let's call this one Smash Brothers Universe. Okay, well, that's also not completely fair considering that they both share the exact same gameplay and character roster. So unfortunately, it does make sense why they called them this, because it's almost kind of like, well, what the hell else are you going to call them? These are the most, like, fair names to call these games. But it's also just lame as dirt. And I honestly think these games being titled this way kind of led to these games having just, like, such a lack of an identity. Like, Smash 4 just doesn't really have much going on with it, like, when you pop it in. It's not like, oh, wow, like, this feels like a certain Smash Brothers game. Like, Brawl definitely has a certain vibe to it. Even Melee. This one, it doesn't really. And like I already said, many people call this one just Smash 4 because it's the 4th Smash Brothers game. And you can make the argument, oh, maybe they called it Super Smash Brothers 4 3DS, 4 Wii U, because it's kind of a pun, like, oh, it's 4 because this is the 4th Smash Brothers. I'm not 100% sure, but it at least makes me feel better when I don't fucking call them by their actual name and I just call these Smash Brothers 4. Oh God, I've always had a bone to pick with this game's name, Band Hero. I remember when this came out, for years there, like, I still had, like, a hard time figuring out, like, what the hell is the point of this game? It's called Band Hero, but it's like, before this game came out, we already got Guitar Hero World Tour, which introduced, like, a full band to the mix, like, the drum set, the microphone, all of that. So it's like, why is this so unique? We also had DJ Hero come out this same year in 2009. And that makes sense. All right, DJ Hero. You have a DJ turntable. This one, Band Hero. It's the same shit as like Guitar Hero 5, which launched this year as well. Guitar Hero 5 had a full band set. So like what is so damn unique about this one? Why is it called Band Hero? Because the whole point of this game is that it's kind of a more family-friendly pop music-oriented version of Guitar Hero. You know, it says right there, by the biggest pop artist. It launched the exact same day as Lego Rock Band, which was the exact same idea as this. It's like a family-friendly version of Rock Band with more songs that are kind of like pop-focused, popular songs that everybody kind of knows. Well, at that point, why the hell don't you just call it Pop Hero or something? I don't know. I just don't like this title because it implies this is what makes this game unique when it's not unique at all. Kind of like this. It's a sequel to the Medal of Honor reboot from 2010. What kind of a fucking subtitle is this? Warfighter? Yeah. It's a Medal of Honor game. You can subtitle every Medal of Honor game this. You can subtitle every Call of Duty game this. Oh, speaking of, the second this game was revealed, this title annoyed the hell out of me. Call of Duty World War II. Buddy, Call of Duty was mostly all about World War II back in the day. There are so many Call of Duty games set during World War II. Why is this just the name of this one? It's not unique. It's like so many Call of Duty games are about World War II. Yet this one we're gonna title World War II? Off. It was definitely called that because this was kind of the return to World War II for Call of Duty, because at the time many people were getting very annoyed at the idea that Call of Duty had kind of abandoned the historic elements of, the series during its earlier years, especially in like 2016 when you get to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, where it's, oh, you're going to space and all that shit. People were like, I want more realistic Call of Duty again, historic Call of Duty. So I think that title is the way it is, kind of as a way to show people like, hey, no, this one's all about, World War II. So it's just like, all right, sure, I guess I get it, but it still annoyed me. Kind of like these titles of games where they kind of abbreviate stuff in a way where I feel like it's kind of them wanting to be cool about it or something. So the Devil May Cry reboot, DMC Devil May Cry, that's its official name. I just find it to be kind of strange because kind of doing this abbreviation DMC, DMC is kind of like what Devil May Cry fans would call the series or a game in the series, kind of just a shorthand way to say it. And just kind of titling this game DMC Devil May Cry, I feel like almost titling it this almost makes this game less appealing to newcomers. It's kind of just like, oh wow, you're abbreviating like, oh man, that seems like something only fans do. I should stay the hell away from this. I know it's kind of a weird argument, but it's also like, they obviously did this reboot for Devil May Cry to kind of expand the reach of the series and stuff. I just feel like doing something stupid like this kind of just makes it less appealing. It's almost like how you had like Gears 5. For a second there, they abbreviated the Gears of War series down to just Gears. And I just did not like that at all. Like, why are we trying to shorten titles that really aren't that long to begin with? Gears of War 5 is not a long-ass title, but Gears 5 is just a stupid title. All right, but are you ready for this one? Because this might be the only time I think anybody's ever fucking talked about this. I've never seen anybody discuss Microsoft's major initiative during the Xbox One era to re-release their Kinect Disney games without Kinect as the focus. So this was Kinect Disneyland Adventures, and then years later on the Xbox One, they did kind of like a remaster or just re-release of this game. I believe you can still use the Kinect in this game, but they just made it so then like, oh yeah, it's just fully playable with a controller. It's just a regular ass generic ass game at this point. This one, I'm not talking about this one right here. You know, Kinect Disneyland Adventures, Disneyland Adventures is just the new thing. Whatever. This is the one I want to talk about. There's this game called Kinect Rush, a Disney Pixar adventure. All right, yeah, sure. You know, you just go through a bunch of Pixar movies and all of that. The Xbox One game is just called Rush. I just think this is stupid as hell. I think Kinect Rush makes more sense, and then you just call this Rush, and now I'm just like, what the f are we doing here? You know, I really don't like titles that just don't make it apparent what the hell you're getting. So, for example, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell 3D. Really enough, these are all on the 3DS because for some reason they just like slapping 3D on a title and being like, there you go, when in reality these are all kind of like remakes, re-releases. So this is a 3DS remake of Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Chaos Theory from back during the GameCube days. But they just decided to call it Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell 3D. It almost kind of implies that this is like potentially the first Splinter Cell game, just now in stereoscopic 3D or something. Same can be said for Rayman 3D, which is also by Ubisoft. This is a 3DS port of the Dreamcast version of Rayman 2, but they don't call it Rayman 2 3D. No, it's just Rayman 3D, which is weird because Ubisoft did like this exact same thing during the Nintendo DS era. They released a game called Rayman DS, and that similarly was a DS port of Rayman 2, but that was the PS1 version of Rayman 2 kinda that came over to the DS. This one's the Dreamcast version of Rayman 2 that came over to the 3DS, but they don't want to call them Rayman 2. They don't want that. They kind of want it to then like, oh wow, oh this is a new Rayman game maybe? No, it's just fucking Rayman 2 again. And then something like Tekken 3D is pretty much just Tekken 6 on the 3DS, but you know, again, they don't want to say it. They just want to call it Tekken 3D Prime Edition. What the fuck does that mean? However, folks, we've had a great time bitching today, but it's time for the main event. God damn it! The Mario vs. Donkey Kong games have some of the most confusing titles. It is so difficult to remember and follow them and all of that. So you have the original game, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. That's all it was. Nothing crazy. Then you have the sequel, Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2, March of the Minis. And then you had a follow-up on Nintendo DSiWare. That one was called Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis March Again. Then you had this game, which was a direct follow-up called Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem. And then you had an eShop game on the 3DS called Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move. All right, so I'm already goddamn confused. Pretty much all of these games have variations of the words minis, marches, just a bunch of M words. And then for some reason, for Minis on the Move, what, Mario and Donkey Kong, not versus anymore? Now, thankfully, after that, we got Mario versus Donkey Kong Tipping Stars. Yeah, thankfully. My standards are fucking low. I say thankfully because at the very least, that subtitle is different enough. The game is not. The game is the exact same goddamn thing as all the other games, but at the very least, the subtitle is unique enough to the point where it's not the most confusing thing in the world. But then after Tipping Stars, we got a free-to-play kind of amiibo-based follow-up called Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge. All right, so the mini is back in the goddamn title. All right. And then we got the Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake on Nintendo Switch. So, I mean, like, hey, I mean, you could be confused by that, sure, because it's the exact same name as the first game in the series. But overall, like, my God, at the very least, in the middle of the series, all these goddamn subtitles with mini in them, ew. But folks, I'm truly sorry about that. You know what? It's late at night. I just thought to myself, I'm pissed. and I just want to bitch about a bunch of random-ass video game titles. And you know what? This coping mechanism is far more effective than screaming at myself in the mirror, so I'm just gonna do this more often. Let me know what video game titles are annoying to you. I know I definitely didn't go over everything in the world. You know, I could definitely go over the fucking Kingdom Hearts titles or something like that. I don't know. There's definitely more titles I could critique in the future, so of course, let me know what titles really just get you fucking going. And why is it the fucking Outer Worlds? Because I always get it confused with Outer Wilds.